what countries have the most free internet, right? And in what countries has that freedom declined? Now that's what a new report released by a watchdog organization called Freedom House sought to find out. The annual report is called Freedom on the Net. Now, the countries are ranked from 0 to 100. Okay, 0 to 30 being free, 31 to 60 being partly free, and 61 to 100 being not free. Now, who is number one? It's not America. Let me just tell you that already. It's not America. Iceland, actually. Iceland is the most has the most freedom on the internet. Unsurprising. They have a score of 6. It's pretty free. Number 2, once again, not America. It's Estonia. Estonia has the second most freedom on the internet. And they have a score of 9. Now, of course, Germany comes next with a score of 17, followed by the United States with the same score. Okay, so we're not too bad. We're not too bad. We're pretty up there. So, for the most part, we have a free internet, which is great. I mean, that's how I can actually do the show and tell you about these things. Couldn't do this show in Iran. Couldn't do this show in Pakistan. Come on. Pretty much most modern European countries, and Japan as well, scored relatively high. That's good. Now, the countries with the highest score improvements over the last year were Estonia, Saudi Arabia, which is kind of strange. They've actually gotten slightly more free, even though they're still technically in the not free category. So keep that in mind. They got a little bit better, but they got a long way to go. Kenya, which is in the same, pretty much the same category, Saudi Arabia, they both increased by 1 point. Rwanda increased by 3 points. Still in the not free category, but getting better. Tunisia by 5 points, and Burma with a crushing 13 points. So all of those countries, most of those countries already in the not free or not very free category. But they're getting a little bit better, which is good. It's good to see improvement. Now, of course, the biggest score declines, however, are from India with negative 8 points. They got less free. Brazil with a negative 5. The United States also negative 5. We got less free. Venezuela, negative 5. Ethiopia, negative 4. Pakistan, negative 4. Turkey, negative 3. Germany, negative 2. And Iran, negative 1. So all these countries got even worse when it came to internet freedom. Now, it's not surprising to see the United States on that list. What with the NSA PRISM, X-Key Score, the list goes on of ways that they're trying to, restrict internet freedom. And we've seen all of these different pieces of legislation, CISPA, ACTA, all of these things that are trying to crush internet freedom and take away net neutrality. Now, luckily, all those things those pieces of legislation haven't, been able to be implemented. But we still have the problem with the NSA. So if you're wondering how they came up with these answers, here's how they did it. Now, the methodology of this study examines the level of internet freedom through a set of 21 questions. No, they're playing 21 questions. All right. And nearly 100 accompanying subpoints organized into 3 groupings. Now, the 3 different groupings are obstacles to access. That includes infrastructure and economic barriers to internet access, governmental efforts to block specific applications or technologies, legal and ownership control over the internet, and mobile phone access providers. So that's all obstacles. Okay? You also have limits on content. That includes filtering and blocking of websites. Good example of that would be Iran, that blocks Facebook. There's also, of course, other forms of censorship, including self-censorship, manipulation of content, and the diversity of online news media and usage of digital media for social and political activism. Of course, we saw a lot of political activism during the Arab Spring on Twitter. So social media is a major, major driver of political activism. And so it's very important. Now, it would make sense that an authoritarian regime wants to reduce access, wants to block access to that. That's a no-brainer. Now, the third grouping is violation of user rights. Now, I think America would fall into that. Getting the metadata of our phone calls and emails, definitely a violation of our user rights. And that includes legal protections and restrictions on online activity, surveillance, and limits on privacy, and repercussions for online activity such as legal prosecution, imprisonment, physical attacks, or other forms of harassment. Now, this makes me think of Aaron Swartz. Now, you remember Aaron Swartz, right? He killed himself recently over breaking a terms of service. The government was coming after him a lot. Now, he downloaded files from Gistor, right? He downloaded a lot of files. The government came after him. Hard. So hard that he killed himself. And I think that is definitely a form of harassment. It's really disheartening to see the level of internet freedom decreasing here in America. We have to continue to keep fighting for net neutrality. Net neutrality, we have to.